So one thing I realized nobody really makes videos about on YouTube would be how to hand shop correctly certain decks or cards. Now, there are some people who make spreadsheet videos on how to use your hand shops, but it doesn't really work too well. The issue is that they always assume that there's always a correct answer to something, so for example, always Ash Bonfire. And today I wanted to start a little series where we tackle this problem and try to find a real solution. The goal is to develop thought process by analyzing the situation and ask yourself if the card is really worth hand shopping in the current context. Way too often I see comments of people saying that you can bait hand shops by using weaker cards, but in reality that's always never a thing. It might be true against unexperienced players or people who lack knowledge against your deck, but trust me, it's definitely not gonna work super often against the high level players. Again, I'm saying that because people used to believe that if you were playing Despia, you could bait an Ash by using Fret for Patchwork.
Stop the cap!
But yeah, like I said, the high level players will definitely not take the bait and they will understand when to use their hand shop against your choke point. With that said, there is a difference between, Yu-Gi-Oh! In theory and Yu-Gi-Oh! In practice, which is the reason why mind games can come into play. Anyways, let's cover Bonfire. Is that card an Ash Magnet or not? Alright, so first things first, what is the context? And is your only hand shop Ash? Assuming that it is, and your opponent immediately starts with Bonfire, you might be really tempted to Ash it. One thing that you can tell for a fact is that your opponent does not have Snake Eye Ash, otherwise he would have started with that instead of starting with Bonfire. Reasoning behind that is that if you can start with Snake Eye Ash, then you're also mitigating the impact of Droll because you're not searching a Populace off of the Bonfire since you already have Ash. And also, if the Snake Eye Ash gets Veilored, at least you can still use Bonfire as an extender. So the fact that Bonfire is the very first card to be used already gives away a lot of information. With that said, your opponent might have a copy of Populace in the hand, and if you Ash the Bonfire, then your opponent can normal summon the Populace and then full combo. Well, not really full combo, but make 3 interruptions, which is good enough. Now, if you choose not to Ash the Bonfire, and your opponent did have the Populace, what happens is that your opponent will be searching the Snake Eye Ash, and then normal summon that, and then this is where Ash can be really good. You can Ash the search effect of Snake Eye Ash, and there's practically no punish there. Again, especially if your opponent has the Populace, because then he's stuck with 2 normal summons, and he can't really get the Populace in any way. Unless he sacked a Divine Temple or 1-for-1, but would you rather play against the 1-ofs or the most likely 2 or 3-ofs? And perhaps your opponent also had the Bellstar on top of Bonfire, and you might be getting a little punished because of that. Although I will say that's a little foolish, because usually when people have Witch and Snake Eye Ash, they always start with Witch. Reasoning behind that is that they might be able to bait a Veiler or an Imperm using the Diabellstar, whereas Snake Eye Ash, you don't really want to get Veilered on that. As a matter of fact, I want to say in the pure Snake Eyes deck, when you have Diabellstar and Snake Eye Ash, you really want your opponent to use a Veiler on your Witch. Whereas let's say if you're playing Fire King and all you have is Diabellstar, then you really don't want your opponent to Veiler the Witch. You want to be able to summon a Snake Eye Ash off of the original, and then if your opponent Veilers the Snake Eye Ash, then you can dodge it with Kirin, assuming of course that you're good at the game. Therefore, another variable to take into consideration is the deck that your opponent is playing. Anyways, to be fair, if your opponent had Snake Eye Ash and Diabellstar, one single Ash was never stopping him anyways. So I'd say ashing the search effect of a Snake Eye Ash searched out by Bonfire definitely makes sense. However, ashing a Bonfire right away does not make sense. With that said, the rules change completely when you have multiple hand shops. For example, if you had Ash and Veiler, I would obviously not Ash a Snake Eye Ash, I would Veiler that instead, and then I would be ashing the Bonfire. However, it gets really tricky when you have 3 hand shops but your opponent has a 3-card combo. So let's say you got double Veiler and Ash, and your opponent has Snake Eye Ash, Bonfire, and Witch. This is really complicated. If you Veiler the Witch and then Veiler the Snake Eye Ash, and then your opponent activates Bonfire at the end, you completely lose. Because then your opponent uses the Witch as well as the Snake Eye Ash to make a Hita, revive back your Ash, and then make a Princess, revive back, the Ash from the grave, and then send in order to send the Populace, search the original, etc. So yeah, again, in conclusion, if your opponent uses Bonfire as a starter, I would not Ash it. But if your opponent uses a Bonfire as an extender after getting a Snake Eye Ash negated, I definitely would Ash it. The odds of getting hit by Hita there would be so minuscule because at this point, I probably would have already seen a Diabellstar if my opponent had one. So it's really just a question of mind games and trying to understand what your opponent has in hand and how he's trying to play around your hand shops. Anyways, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know how you would be approaching this situation in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.